Colin Clements. time or money. Um, so it's pretty simple. We block off the courts for the tennis team, and then we reserve those out for groups that want to reserve the courts at a very nominal fee, $3, $4, $5, and all the money we collect goes into our ASB fund to pay for transportation this year. Any questions? And one of the things that maybe I mentioned, maybe I didn't, but we will have one or two tennis players or parents or a combination of at the court. So somebody will be there watching. So that's how they're earning.
So, Andy, you are proposing that your group, being the Mountain House High School tennis team, open up the courts for public use as a fundraiser.
Yes. I didn't say fundraiser, but essentially, yes.
Okay.
And again,
that time would never be used for lessons. It's just recreational play, because if there's a group coming in to give lessons, we have procedures.
Well, I think there are definitely people who want to run tournaments on the courts, and maybe some league play. So, again, yeah.
Not being a tennis player, what league would that be?
There are various leagues in Mountain House. Mr. Malapaka knows more because he's in charge of one of them. But again, there are 3 courts. There are tons of people in the afternoons that want to use them. This will bring the necessary funds for the team, and will give the community more courts to play on. The lessons, again, that's if that's a no, then we will say no. But I didn't consider whether we would allow that or not. Because ultimately, if they rent it for an hour, it's still fees for the tennis team. You know. Although you're right, they will make money from most, yeah. So that's the difference between the tournaments and the leagues. I think the leagues and tournaments generally don't. Mr. Malapaka can answer more, but generally aren't making money.
Right. So my question about the lessons and stuff like that. So you're proposing that we charge a nominal fee. I'll say nothing more than $10.
Right.
Yet there's a group there making money more than $10.
Well, we
that
could
would
certainly.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We can certainly exclude that group. That's none of this was absolute, just a proposal. And again, to solve those 3 problems that I mentioned, just get more people, more courts, and it'll help the tennis teams. It'll help the district because it helps us get the kids to the events this year.
Yeah.
You guys know the costs that we have to pay to use the events this year, so it's not going to be nothing.
So, Mr. Su has referred to Mr. Malapaka several times, so I would like to recognize Mr. Malapaka to fill in some of the holes, and unless any committee member has a question specifically for another question specifically for Mr. Su.
Although I do want to say I think he has a different proposal than mine. So I think there are 2 separate proposals coming forward.
All right. Yeah. And I apologize. Wait a second. I apologize, Dr. Su.
No problem.
Mr. Malapaka.
Yes. So thanks again for the committee members for taking up this issue so quickly. One more time. I just want to give a more broad view about who all plays tennis in Mountain House. We have a lot of families that want to go have fun at the tennis court, especially in the COVID situation where there's nothing else to do. And if it's other city, they have other entertainment. So either tennis or basketball, things like that. So then we have families. Then we have a lot of youngsters who are high school players, as well as middle school, etc. They want to come and practice. They have ball machines. They bought like expensive ball machines. They really want to practice. Then we have a bunch of amateurs who started playing like myself, like 3-4 years ago. But now we have a huge group of people, like 100 people that want to come and play. So you have 3 courts. everybody gets off from their work around 5 o'clock, and then you can see the rush. I would love to invite you guys to see actually how long people wait and how many people wait. So we have all these groups of people wanting to play, number one. And number two, we also have coaches who have been coaching like 50, 60 kids uh, for the past several years at the Central Park courts. Now, actually, they contribute significant revenue to the CST courts. So they are also there, and again, kids want to learn. We have really wonderful coaches, including Mr. Dr. Andy Sue. He himself is a coach. So we have a lot of activity and talent that really wants to just play. I mean, it's just for play. So that's why we always wondered, if we can access until we get the other courts built, if we can get access to the 6 courts that are there in Mountain House High School, it would be great because it will it's entertainment for a lot of folks and recreation, and of course it leads to better health. So given that we always, I mean, some of us have been discussing this how to access, but we never really got through certain barriers. And as you saw, the cost for a resident to go play is just prohibitive. I don't want to use other words, but it's impossible to family to go have an hour of fun. So ultimately, what we would love is for the families to go play whenever the high school students are not for free. But at the same time, we have 100 people playing tournaments. They are U.S. Tennis Association, others like my UTR, etc. And then we have our own Mountain House League. So for those, we used to book Central Park courts, like $6 an hour. And like I said, we used to book pretty much 10 to 15 hours a week. And that, again, goes for maintenance and everything to the tennis courts. So two concerns that I was told was number one, we will maintain them, and number two, what if there is some graffiti or vandalism, etc. Now, honestly, I've seen in the past 4 years there was no vandalism at tennis court. You have certain small incidents, but the benefits are a lot more than just 1 or 2 incidents that happen a year. And also maintenance wise, tennis courts are fairly, cheap to maintain. They're not like, you don't need a swimming pool level maintenance. It's just once in a while replace the nets, all those things. So given the benefits we have and the constraints that we think that are there, I believe for Mountain House it would tremendously benefit opening up the courts. But at the same time, you can generate revenue to maintain the courts by tournaments, by training kids, and also any other, family wants to reserve for 2 hours, they can come and do. But the price has to be reasonable. So I sent you an email about proposal. Our ultimate goal is, free access to the public, the Mountain House residents. But at the same time, I also sent a proposal which I think is reasonable considering what we pay at the Central Park and other courts in the Bay Area as well as the extended Bay Area. So if you could give a serious consideration to the price sheet that I've provided, that would be great, and I think it will tremendously benefit Mountain House as a community.
So, um, at the board meeting when this was discussed, it it became clear that at least 3 board members were supportive of continuing to follow the policy. So one of the topics discussed, and I apologize, I do not remember it verbatim, was um, the current health department status of whether of allowing and I didn't ask a bunch of clarifying questions because at the moment at that point in time I thought it was a moot point, but it felt to me like the current status of San Joaquin County was that essentially there were all these requirements. If they want to play tennis, then it's, they have to, the server has to use his ball and all kinds of stuff. Did I Mr. Harrison, did I misunderstand that? Can you help me refresh my memory as to what the current status is?
I can, and before I do that, if I could ask everybody that's speaking to speak with a broad, louder voice, because we're having some problems with the people on the live stream hearing everybody speak. We've got everything cranked up as loud as we can here, so it might be the device. So if you could just speak up a little bit more, that would be helpful. To answer your question, I have the direct quote from Dr. Maggie Park, who is the County Department Public Health Officer, and her response to our question about tennis. Would you like me to read that?
Would you please? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I brought it all assuming that we were going to go through it again. This is Dr. Maggie Park responding to Dr. Nicholas, our superintendent. As for the use of the tennis courts, County Council has said that each school district can decide on their own whether to make their spaces available. When tennis is played, the state says it can only be played as a single sport. If kids are playing, they have to follow the youth sports guidance rules. Now, the youth sports guidance rules are the following. You can have students in small groups outside in organized cohorts. And what's meant by the cohorts is that you have the same group of kids working with the same group of kids, or conditioning with the same group of kids, or in this case, playing tennis with the same group of kids. And you have to have the same adults working with that group. So that's what they mean by a cohort. So they aren't spreading potential germs from one cohort group to another cohort group.
So that would prohibit a tournament.
I believe that is the case. And then the other guidance that we've received through CIF for youth, and this is in partnership with the CDPH, is that tennis can be played in singles. They cannot share implements. They can hit the tennis balls off of a machine, which was mentioned earlier by Dr. Sue. No doubles play. Singles play is okay as long as they're not sharing an implement. And then the social distancing has to occur, the 6 feet. If they come within 6 feet, they have to don a mask. And then the further guidance that we received 2 weeks ago on the small groups is you can't have groups larger than 14 with 2 adults as a part of the cohort. So the maximum size of a group or cohort group that you could have for our rules for kids, for school-age kids, would be 14 individual students and 2 adults. You could have 3 adults and 13 kids. You could have 4 adults and 12 kids, but they all have to stay cohorted together. Those are the groups that work together. So in a nutshell, those are kind of the rules, Mr. Collin.
Dr. Sue.
Having directed tournaments since the 80s, tournaments should be okay, because in a tournament, especially in Mountain House, we're not likely to have more than 14 players in a division. And we're just talking about kids, because that didn't apply to the adults. So if there was a kids tournament and there's 6 kids in that tournament, that's the maximum exposure. So, those kids will only be exposed to 5 other kids. It doesn't get that big, like in LA or where I used to play. The tournaments got over 100 kids. So I think with regards to kids, and same with our practices, as long as the groups are smaller than 14, whether you call it a tournament or a league, it's still we're still abiding by the rules. With adults, I don't think that even applies. There's not the cohort for adults. But again, honestly, I'm school staff, of course, but tennis is pretty safe. You're 70 feet away from your opponent. Initially, you guys know I do this for a living. Initially, they thought, the virus could survive on a surface, like a tennis ball for weeks. It just hasn't happened. People aren't getting sick from touching a ball or, touching a surface from something that happened. Somebody walked by an hour ago and you touched the same surface. People aren't getting sick from that. So safest sports currently. Same as golf. So again,
And I would like to add something here. Being a molecular biologist, again, I've studied some of these, and I do understand your concerns. But like Dr. Sue said, tennis we practically have played almost every day during the pandemic at the courts, following guidelines. Of course, guidelines are pretty important, but at the same time, if you follow the guidelines, it should be fine. And second thing, we are not just talking about the current situation, the pandemic situation. We are talking about long term, right? Whether Dr. Sue is talking about raising funds for the kids, or whether I'm talking about opening up for residents and others, it's for long term. Because guidance, if the San Joaquin County does well with the numbers, the guidance will go down. So they will say, okay, you can play tournaments, and tournaments are happening all around the country. So given the holistic picture, I think the benefits outweigh far a lot more than some of the perceived negative things that can happen opening up the court. So all I request is give it a big thought and just weigh pros and cons, see how much can be generated. Open it. If things go bad, you can always shut it down. But give it a trial period, see what can happen, and I think take it from there. That's my sincere request to the board.
Dr. Sue was interrupted a little bit. Did you finish, Dr. Sue?
I forgot what I was saying. I have another comment after. I think Sharon had her.
Okay.
Trustee Lampel.
Thank you. So I just wanted to make a point. I respect your opinions. I know Andy is a doctor, and you're a molecular biologist, and your knowledge of how viruses are spread, I totally respect it. But we have to follow the guidelines that we are given by the County Health Department and by CIS, because we are a school district. Whether we agree with them or not doesn't matter. But we have to follow those guidelines. So I just wanted to make that point. I hear what Andy's saying, and I hear you. The guy who said, wipe down everything you buy at the grocery store before you bring it into the house. Now he's saying, no, never mind. So nobody really knows, but we must follow the guidelines under the organizations that, because we could lose our CIS status, and we wouldn't want to do that. My other question is for Mr. Malapaka. Have you asked the CSD to reinstate the reservation system for the tennis courts in the park?
Yes, we have been contacting Angel Lamb. Some of my friends, I know they have been checking with her when the reservation is available. So we are in constant touch.
Right, so, okay, I shouldn't overstep. Angel doesn't make the decisions. So my question was, have you gone to the board? Dr. Sue is on the CSD board. Have you gone, just like you've come to our meeting here today, which would help your organization if you were able to make reservations at the community tennis courts? Because I know they're not doing that right now.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Dr. Sue.
Andy. Go ahead. Chair recognized me. So, Trustee Lampel, it is true that we're not currently reserving the courts, but we're probably close to opening up. However, that does not solve Mr. Malapaka's problem.
Yes, that's right.
There are only 3 courts, and we have a certain priority system, and we actually allowed coaching. I get that the coaches make money, and we kind of discussed this earlier, but they benefit a lot of kids. I run the Mountain House Tennis Club. Gary, our instructor, has 50, 60 students at a time. And that's a lot of, when we charge them a nominal fee. So they're getting a lot out of the coaching from and I know there are several other instructors in town. So the problem with the reservation system is once it opens up, the coaches have priority based on the current system. So once they reserve all the courts, there aren't any courts left for the other people to use. Even though we're limiting So the coaches can't reserve all 3 courts. They can only reserve a certain number of courts. We're limiting the number of hours they can reserve each week. But once all the coaches go through and reserve the premium times, there aren't any courts left. It's still not enough court time for the 20,000 people. So to respond to one of your comments about the guidelines is that the tournaments can follow the guidelines. The cohorts are less than 14, right? This is Mountain House. We're not going to get a tournament of 30 kids. I don't know how many kids. Actually, you don't even run the kids tournaments, right? Atesh does, right? Or yeah.
No.
Another gentleman that runs it, and I know one of his tournaments had 4 kids in it. So the cohorts are, we of course have to limit and say you can't have more than 14 per cohort. So that we still follow the guide. Again, my proposal still follows all the guidelines. The one thing, I don't know, Raghu, if you addressed in your email, but if your proposal is to open the courts, let's say Saturday and Sunday all day, and allow groups to reserve, that will take some district time, right? Somebody has to go open the courts on Saturday and Sunday, and somebody has to take reservations, which is not, that's time. I've worked with Angel. It's
No, so that's why I'm proposing, reasonable admin fee, of course.
Okay.
If the fee are reasonable, people are ready to pay. But if it's $30, $35 an hour, and
yeah, nobody's going to pay that.
So all we are trying to say here is, we want to play kids, adults, old people. We have 75-year-old person who plays with us. So it's extremely popular, and it would tremendously benefit the community. That's all I have to say. And I think, Andy, we both have to hop on to the other call now.
Oh yeah, we have the roundtable. But again, to summarize, there are 2 proposals. Mine won't require any staff time because I'll be the person opening and closing courts, and I'll be the person making the reservations. So you guys don't have to pay for that.
And are you, if we did this, Dr. Sue, your particular proposal, are you willing to commit to follow the county health guidelines?
Of course.
Which means as things open up, right, the guidelines become less and less, but we have to follow them as they are now, not as we want them to be.
No, we've been following, the girls and boys tennis teams have been practicing over the last few months, and we've been following the guidelines. In fact, I always make fun, but I make the kids stand 9 feet apart. 6 feet is not good enough for me. So I drew X's on the court that are 9 feet apart. So again, when it comes to a, airborne virus, distance matters.
Yes.
And it's exponential. The farther you are, the less likely. So I have the kids stay, even when they're sitting, they're further apart than what they're recommended. So yeah, I'm for going above and beyond. I'm.
Yeah.
So I have a quick question. When kids play tennis, and I can't imagine how this would work, but I heard about certain sports, and I've seen runners with people wearing masks. I go out on my bike. I would suffocate if I had a mask on. When the kids play tennis, they're not wearing masks, are they?
They do not have to, but they can.
Okay.
They really don't have to because, the players are 70 feet apart from each other.
Yeah.
There's no risk of transmitting from player to player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't allow them to sit on the same bench together. In between games, they have to go opposite directions, and we're very careful with the team. And, again, if we're able to rent out the courts, we're going to have players out there to monitor. And, if any groups abuse the guidelines, then guess what? We won't reserve it to them next time. That's ultimately the way we enforce rules, right? You don't get the court next time. So,
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Mr. Harrison.
Who would cover the liability insurance? We require $2 million overall and $1 million per case for use of facilities.
That was going to be my next point.
Yeah, so that's the part that's a little tricky because if we make it a tennis team fundraiser, the district is covering the insurance. But again, like Mr. Raghu said, and the CSD covers tennis courts too. it's not a very high risk sport. They may, yeah, again,
Was your other call at 7, Dr. Sue? And
yeah, the
and
round
Mr.
table is
Malapaka?
at 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, my proposal is pretty simple. The tennis teams will control the courts, the reservations. The district staff wouldn't have to be involved. At the end of each month, I deposit the money in the ASB account for the tennis teams.
So for the tennis teams to run this, you are proposing weekdays only?
No, weekend. 'Cause
Oh,
we-
weekends.
Yeah, we practice on the weekdays, so
Okay.
we would be using the courts on the weekdays. So Saturday morning to Sunday night. Just again, more courts for the community to use. Because ultimately, those courts aren't being utilized during the weekends.
So tennis tournaments are not like a basketball tournament where people pay to come in and observe. Observers just are in the stands, right, on the outside. There's no admission fee. That's what I'm asking.
The bigger tournaments like the U.S. Open,
Yeah, I've been there.
Wimbledon.
not local tournaments. Yeah, no.
Okay.
Now, could there be parents there watching? Sure, but they gotta sit 9 feet apart. I mean,
Right.
there are rules, and if
Okay.
if they don't want to listen to our rules, then we mark them down, and they're never using the courts again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I intend to deal with non-compliance.
Okay.
Thank you guys both for attending and voicing any further comments, Mr. Malapaka, because I know you have to leave.
Yeah, no, I think at the end, all I want to appeal is, as you've seen from Dr. Sue as well as myself, we love the sport, and so do hundreds of people. If we can get access to the courts that are not being used, in at least on the weekends, I think it would benefit us. Again, it would be good for kids who are getting trained, high school kids who want to come and practice. I mean, amateurs like us who want to play tournaments or just friendly game. But if everything is accessible, that would greatly benefit. So those are my 2 words, and I really thank all of you for giving this another thought, and I hope that you will come up with a solution. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Sue.
So when's the next board? This will go to the next board meeting then, probably?
Oh, we have some discussions to do. We haven't, but we will report back to you. But I just knew you guys had to leave, so
Yeah,
Yes.
I told them I could be late. I mean, this is important too.
If
The
it
other-
goes to the next board meeting, that'll be October 7th.
7th. I did want to address Ms. Trustee Lampel about the lessons. They are beneficial to us, to the kids, to the people who are getting the lessons. So, would that be acceptable if we charge the different fee schedule? I mean, a higher fee, just because ultimately that's still help. Well, yeah, those people make money. It's still helping the kids or adults who are getting the lessons.
Yeah, it would depend on how your fundraiser is organized for that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I haven't worked out all the details about the,
Right.
fees and stuff, but again, something reasonable that, people are willing to pay, and, it benefits all of us, so. Okay. Anything else before I have to run to the next?
thank
Well,
you very
thank you
much
for
for your
bringing
time,
this
both
to
of you.
us.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great meeting. Take care.
Good
you
night,
guys.
Andy.
Bye-bye.
So I actually did some research after the last board meeting and after reading some of the comments on Facebook. I went to Pleasanton Unified's website. I went to Livermore Unified's website. I went to Tracy Unified's website. I emailed the facility, whoever the quote unquote contact was at each of the districts, because all of them have a facilities policy, and all of them include the tennis courts at the high school in their policy, and all of them charge hourly fees. Tracy Unified actually charges $56.23 an hour. And and so then I emailed them and said, so do you allow? Because the comment on Facebook, which you can believe everything that you read on Facebook. The comment was that Pleasanton, and I can't remember if it was Livermore or not, but Pleasanton has open access, like our basketball courts at the elementary schools. On the weekend, you can, pre-COVID, of course, but before COVID, you could just take a basketball to the elementary school, access the grounds, and play basketball. You just could. And I confirmed that with 3 principals of our district just to make sure that I wasn't incorrect. So I emailed the contact people at the 3 districts and said, so you've got in your policy, I'm on the board, this is a discussion item. Do you allow public access on your high school tennis courts or not? And they said, well, we don't have, one of them called me, didn't want to email me, called me and said, well, we don't post people with machine guns at the gate, right? So yes, people use them, but the policy is you're supposed to reserve them. And so it's, so yes, I think that the comment on Facebook that the public is using the high school tennis courts at Pleasanton is true, because they are, but not because the district has said we open it to everyone at any time.
It's simply because they don't lock them.
It's because they sometimes aren't locked, and they're not going to, quote unquote, post people, like with machine guns. I thought that was a very colorful statement.
Yeah, let's refer to guns in a school district. That's a great idea.
So, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but that was her comment. I was quoting.
Yeah, I know it wasn't yours.
and so I struggle with this because, there's the basketball courts, right, which people can access, and then there's the tennis courts. And the tennis courts, they're more expensive, and they're more susceptible to damage than the basketball court. But they are less susceptible to damage and injury than the swimming pool, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely would never, ever in a million years sign on to let's just open the pool and let people come in, or let's just open the library and let people come in, or any of that stuff. But to me, the tennis courts might be in the middle. I like, my biggest concern on the tennis courts is, for me, and I'm one person on the committee, is the damage. Because when we opened the racetrack for, the running track, at the football field so that people could run on it, it was not very long at all before people were riding their, kids were riding their bikes and their trikes and their skateboards on it with their parents. And so I'm sensitive to that. I think, to me, for myself, that's the biggest risk to, following the guidelines is the biggest risk, because we have to follow the county health guidelines. But the second biggest risk is damage, which is why I kind of like Dr. Sue's proposal, saying, okay, we'll essentially rent the facility, right? But they're a team sport and it's a fundraiser and all that, but we will supervise that. And if they're going to be there whenever people are playing tennis, that's going to mitigate the damage and replacement risk to my way of thinking. So those were my thoughts. Those were the research that I did, trying to prepare for this and, find out the truth as opposed to what people were saying. I don't know if that means anything, Trustee Lampel, Mr. Harrison, Saint, any comments?
Of course I have comments.
Of course.
Go ahead, Saint. I can wait.
Saint.
I have, as a parent, as a group, I get it. They have their insurance, they're coming in, they're taking the time, they have everything set. As a mom, if I want to bring in a couple of kids to play, how is it that a team of 14 is making money and benefiting more than a common public person coming and taking over the court? Like, I understand it's a fundraiser, but I'm a PTA president. So does it mean that any PTA can host a game or anything and can we raise funds? Because we decided as a group, I think, that we're not opening to any group events or anything until like December, and then we decide whether we want to do it or not, right? Then that brings, I mean, I'm not going to do it myself, but if any other PTA or any other PTO is like struggling and they want to make money and they say, hey, we want to do a fun run, we want to do a paint night, it's just 14 people. So it's opening up doors. I'm not saying yes to this, no to this. I did go through the Facebook thread and I was like, okay, that was one evening. I was sitting and going through the whole thing. I get it, but you know, I don't think people understand it's like an event. You're taking in the MPR for a day. It's the same as that because it's in the school campus, right? It's on the campus. It belongs to the school. If something happens, if somebody writes something bad on the thing with graffiti, then the school pays for it. LUSC pays for it. It's not like, I don't know how CSD does it at the park. I've never rented a place outside, like in the CSD, you know, the gazebo and all that. But I'm sure they do have insurance requirements, right? They probably do that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So if I'm an individual, he's saying like, if a 75-year-old person wants to come and play, is he going to bring his own insurance? And does it cover the whole year, the whole day, or the whole weekend? How does it work? It's like too many moving parts. I mean, I'm not okay with this. Sorry.
Yeah. I totally lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Saint, you made some excellent points, especially about insurance. You know, if Dr. Sue would like to set up some sort of fundraiser, he needs to go through that process. Oh, I know what the graffiti that Mr. Malapaka addressed, that he's been using the community courts and there's never any graffiti. What Mr. Malapaka doesn't understand is that schools are magnets for not just graffiti, but destruction and damage, vandalism, because it's what the kids know. So that would be something we'd be taking a chance on. For one, and again, like Trustee Clement said, I'm only one person on this committee, but I think we have procedures. If Mr. Sue wants to do a fundraiser, that's up to him. Manning it is not going to last long. People are going to get tired of it. You know, it may start out, maybe he wants to do it for a certain period of time, a short period of time. But as far as these groups coming in to use, I think insurance is the biggest thing. And it's not, Dr. Sue addressed that tennis is not something that you see a lot of injuries. But when you have people playing tennis and they're on the courts and somebody trips over their own feet and smashes their face on the concrete within our fences, it's our responsibility. It's not just the players. Yeah, tennis is not a contact sport, although I would fall and hurt myself, but that's me. But yeah, there is a lot of risk, and I think insurance is the biggest thing. The way the CSD deals with it, their insurance would be different because they are a community services organization. We are not. We are a school district.
As PTA, whether we use it or not, we are asked to give insurance copies, whether we are there or not. Doesn't matter because we are responsible no matter what happens. Even if we come in and I'm going into the PTA closet to take something, I fall or break something, then it's on me. It's not. Nobody's going to pay from their own pocket. So maybe if Mr. Sue wants to go through the school and they have a PTSA, they want to go through that route, that's good. But then again, like I said, it's going to open up multiple groups. They would get the same idea and say, hey, I want to do a fundraiser. Why not? Where do we stop? Where do we draw the line?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, Mr. Harrison.
If I could just 2 points.
Did you guys hear feedback?
Ooh, from you, yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Let me move here.
It
Is that
just
better?
stopped. You're good now.
Okay, it might be
Maybe
me.
me, I don't know.
Oh,
Sorry.
Two
Two
things.
things. One, in
in
our
our
handbook,
it talks
talks
about that no activity that we allow on campuses can violate. I would be concerned with how are we going to monitor that, because ultimately, if it's our facility, we're in charge of making sure they follow those guidelines.
There's a lot of feedback again. Do you have two microphones on in that room?
No.
Oh. See, and now you're fine when you just said no. That's weird. Yeah. So are we recommending as a committee, is this an action item or just information and discussion? Information and discussion. Being still kind of new to this committee. Items under information and discussion, we decide whether or not we're going to take it back to the board. Items that are in there.
we can, because we don't actually act on
Right.
many things, right? And this is not something that we could actually act on.
Right. Right.
I heard a couple of comments saying, saying that if Dr. Sue wants to do a fundraiser, then he should go through the process. As I understand it, the process has been shut off.
Okay.
And we're
well,
not allowing, unless we recommend something different, we're not allowing any reservations or events. Am I
any
correct,
facility use. Okay.
Mr. Harrison?
Yep.
So even giving him the latitude would require a sort of an opening. And as Saint said, if we do that for tennis, then the chess club says, well, or okay, chess club, maybe, the debate club, right? Or, the debaters or whatever. So it's, I thought it was a very good point that we can't do it as a one-off, because that's just not fair to regardless of the intent. I understand that the intent is to allow, people in the community to be active and all this, and tennis is a great thing. But it's not our responsibility. We're not the community services district. Their job is to provide community services. Our job is to provide education. And physical agility is part of education, which is why we have the facilities that we do. So I think if we're going to say, as Trustee Lampel suggested, well, then he can just do it as an organization, and that means we would be opening it up, right?
Right. So I'm suggesting when we do open it up, when it fits into everything else that's going on, there's a big picture of all the different cogs of a school district. So if we're not allowing any facilities used by anyone, including fundraiser groups, then it is what it is. Then they can consider doing a fundraiser when we do lift that restriction.
Yeah, I've honestly tried to figure out how to strike that balance.
Mm-hmm.
And after discussion, I don't see that we're there yet. And
I don't either. And
and
my
I've
recommendation,
tried.
my recommendation to the committee, and I hope other people will jump in here, is that we not take a proposal back to the board. The board discussed it, and the board said we have procedures, and this needs to fit into the procedures that we have. The other piece I wanted to address, Mr. Clemens and Saint, you both read the Facebook stuff. I did not read the Facebook stuff because if people want us to consider stuff as a facilities committee, we all have email addresses. So I did not read it. So, and I won't. Facebook is not part of the school district. And I give you both a lot of credit for taking that time.
It was a good time pass for me.
Are you COVID bored?
No, but
Well,
you know, we can't please everybody. Like, everybody wants everything. I want to go out and have dinner with my husband. I can't. I just can't. This is life. We have to open the school, stay safe, 14 days, get the kids used to wearing masks, go back to school. Everybody stay alive, celebrate Christmas, celebrate New Year, and next year, let's talk about this. That's my recommendation. I don't know if I can or give you this, but I'm saying let's take it a little slow like we decided. We thought let's wait until the first half of the year to be done and then decide whether we want to give it to people, public, foundations, PTA, fundraisers, whoever. Because there's people going to come in, it's going to become dirty, somebody has to clean it, and it's going to be our staff. It's not the public, it's Central Park, right? Central Park is different.
Right,
So we're talking about the high school.
And I'm glad you brought up the cleaning, Saint. When our kids do come back to school, our custodians are going to be so overworked because they will, at least in the beginning, we will still have to be following, we will have to follow some very intense disinfection regulations. And custodians and maintenance will not have time to be dealing with any kind of vandalism on the tennis courts or through any of our facilities. It's going to be rough when we open. It's going to be very rough.
I have a question of clarification, Dr. Harrison and Jimmy. The moratorium on reservations, was that for indoor only or was that for all facilities? Because I can't remember.
The discussion that we had was on indoor.
That moratorium was until the end of the first semester, and then we were going to consider outdoor facilities when they were permitted, as long as we could have enough staff to function for opening, closing, etc. of outdoor facilities, or any cleanup or maintenance of restrooms that may need to occur for outdoor facilities. So, as of right now, I still do not believe we have a green light to allow the use of outdoor facilities unless we can guarantee they're going to be in groups of 14 or smaller, and cohorting groups, not just groups, cohorting groups.
They are already impacted by the increased disinfection due to staff use.
No, we have a pretty rigid schedule right now for cleaning throughout the day, and then we have reduced staff in the evening at all the schools. So K's only have one person at night where they normally have two, and the high school's down about 2 people. So we're pretty stretched. We can handle the internal stuff that we have sports-wise, but user groups, I'm not sure that we can.
I talked about those cogs in the machine of LUSD and the impact, the domino effect of everything. So I'm comfortable with sticking with our current procedures. And if we have a moratorium on facility use, then we stick with that.
I'm going to try to make an adjustment here and see if I can get rid of this echo.
What?
I thought he was the all-powerful Oz.
I feel like I'm at a Pink Floyd concert.
Leave that one on though.
Okay, is the echo gone?
I don't know, count.
Is that
Is
better?
that
One, two, three.
No.
No. Okay.
Maybe we should all mute ourselves when he speaks
I-
and then try.
Yeah.
I
But
apologize for
I
this,
think Sharon has weighed in. I think Saints weighed in.
we basically covered it in the previous item, and it was talking about outdoor facility use. Sorry about my voice. I want to give an update on some work that has been done on our school sites. At the high school, the mural is in process. That was approved many moons ago. And it looks great. It's not finished, but it looks great. The pool deck, the crack in the pool deck has been repaired. Underneath the solar, not the pool deck proper, but the cement underneath the solar area. After much cajoling by Jimmy and myself and Wes and Dr. Nicholas, we finally got it repaired by the builder. And then I'll have some, yeah. And then I'll have some pictures at our next meeting where hopefully I won't echo anymore. And I'll have some pictures of updates so I can show you guys some of the repairs and things that have occurred.
As far as facilities goes, I visited our newest campus, and what a beautiful school. Beautiful. You know, they were working, this was a few weeks ago, and they were working on some glitches. Anything new has some glitches. But beautiful campus, beautiful.
I got to see Cordis for the first time this week.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, Courtney.
I know. I was. That's what I was saying. I was echoing you, and I hadn't seen it because remember I wasn't even at the ribbon cutting ceremony because I had a COVID scare. It turned out to be nothing, but I certainly wasn't going to go. So it was my first time seeing it at all. Beautiful campus.
We didn't see it at the ribbon cutting. We got as far as the office and stopped. Yeah, it's a beautiful campus. And I love the shade structure in the middle. It's huge.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Any other questions, comments on facilities update? Item D, process for new community member of facilities committee.
So
So
previously I was directed to send out requests for community members to serve on the facilities committee. I want to verify that you'd like me to follow the same process again that we followed previously. Thank you.
18? You know,
I
to
think
save.
it was 18. It was 18, including me. I remember that number from somewhere. Maybe.
You got it. It was 18.
Okay.
It was 18. Nice memory. Wow.
So just my own personal opinion, to me, that's enough of an application pool to go back to those applications rather than using staff time to post out for more applications. I don't know what the rest of the committee thinks, just my opinion.
How much time does it take to post out?
I think it's a couple weeks. Put
No,
out.
no. How much effort? Like it's an hour task to type it up and post it, or
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah, but it's reading them when they come in,
Yes.
and there's a process at the other end.
Yeah, and then we put them all in a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
and
posting
we
something
put a
doesn't
summary.
take long.
Yeah.
well, I understand that, and the reason why that I'm saying this is because if a member of the public wants to apply and they go, oh, I missed that one. If we continue doing that, then we're excluding them from the ability to apply, even though the idea is every 2 years, because each person serves for a period of 2 years, which means every year there's a new seat opening. And so what we're essentially signposting to the community is you have a shot once a year, right?
I don't know what the history is on how it was done and yeah.
Well, it's the committee, so we have one person that says just take it from the existing applicants. I'm saying I think that we should open it up, but I'm one person. So Saint, what do you think?
You have a good point. Like there may be people who moved out and of the 17, but I want to know how many hours has gone into interviewing people. Did all the 17 get interviewed? Was there somebody more in the running? Like, was there more work put in? If that's something that's already been done and you had like 3-4 narrowed down, and then that would make it easier, then I want to go with Ms. Lampo. But did you guys do that, or how did this happen? Like this recruiting?
We brought the list down to all of the street addresses that were people that lived in our attendance area. And then that list was sorry. And then there was that list was given to the board president, who went through the applicants and made the call.
So do we want to involve the board president in this decision, or would this be a decision of this committee? When did we get those applications? When did we last post?
It was on 10/31/19. It ended.
So a year ago. Okay. Yeah. They could be too old. I don't know. I always try to save people work.
And it was sent out through all the principals. They sent it out through Aries to the families, and we all got it through that from the parent site.
And then we did some background with each individual school site, following up on the activities that individual is participant in at the school site. Just so we have a little background, like are they a part of the foundation? Are they a part of the parent group? Do they coach? Do they work in a classroom? Do they, fill in the blank?
I mean, if we want to post, I'm fine with it. If everyone else feels that way, I don't have a vested interest in either procedure. Just to save staff some work.
If it doesn't take too much time, then I'm okay with opening it up to everyone again, because people may be interested. If it's not too much to go through the whole thing, and if you want to call each application, like each applicant, and see if they want to go in. If people are working from home, they might be more interested in this now. or even the tennis group people may want to come in. Two of them, and then see.
Wait a minute, is it too late to change my?
But that is possible, right? Isn't that possible?
Absolutely.
Sure, it absolutely is. Mr. Harrison, Jimmy, your thoughts?
I think we should open it up.
I think it's fair to open it up.
Okay, I'm fine.
Could
Fine
probably
with
copy
that.
the survey. Probably won't be too much.
So, barring any other comments, questions, concerns, moving on to solar update, item E.
Since I have an echo, Jimmy, can you give them an update on what we've done with the solar up to date?
Please.
Sure. I walked all of the sites today with the electrical contractor and the general contractor. We reconfirmed where all the arrays are gonna go and gave them access to all the main electrical panels and talked about the underground boring and all the things that need to happen for this project to hopefully happen this summer. We looked at the ADA potential issues with parking spaces and that kind of stuff. So we spent about 4 hours roughly walking all the schools today. So they were pleasantly surprised how simple it will be to put solar in compared to some of the other schools they worked at, which is good. Our design is economical, which is good for us. So that's where we're at. I know that it's supposed to go to the board, I believe, October 21st, something around there, right? Store can confirm that.
The contract. Yes.
So at that point, if it's approved, we'll go through the DSA process, and hopefully construction could start next summer. That's about where we're at. Did I miss anything, Thor?
Any questions from the committee?
So,
Yes.
did we include Cordes or no?
Or this is not one of the schools. So,
You want to explain why, Jimmy?
well, because we're dealing with MID and the margins are so thin on, first of all, we have no data to say how much energy Cordis is really going to cost us. And because we're dealing with MID, the margins are really thin about making this work, the numbers work. We were going to wait and get some data. And we're not going to have to wait even longer because Cordis is not even fully staffed. But when that happens, we'll be able to get those utility bills and move to do something with Cordis. But as of right now, we don't have anything to go off of how much it's going to cost us a month to run the school. So that's why.
Makes sense. Yeah, it totally makes sense.
I forget how long is the construction cycle, the construction period for the solar?
To get all the projects done?
Yeah.
I believe they said within 2 months. So over the summer, it can get all completed all the way. So, like I said, our designs are pretty simple. The runs, the boring are all pretty simple. The longest run is at the high school from the north parking lot to the main entrance. That's the longest run they have to make. We try to be as economical as possible. So it should go fairly quickly.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Item F, Jensen landscape update.
We had a meeting with Jensen Landscape, Jimmy and I, 2 weeks ago. And I just wanted to give this group an update because he's been deeply involved in our landscape woes and our landscape hurrahs, depending on the time of year. And their performance had dropped off significantly when it comes to watering and maintenance of the irrigation work around the schools. So Jimmy and I met with their vice president, and we expressed our concerns, and they indicated that they were going to pick up the pace and that they hadn't been doing as well as they promised. We're going to keep them on a short leash and make sure they're doing what they promised they were going to do. I just wanted to give this group an update because we've gone through a lot of landscape maintenance concerns in this group.
I'm sorry you have to go through that again.
Me too.
Yeah.
So just one of the things I would add that one of the resolutions was that they added a fourth member to the crew. We were getting a crew of 3. Now we're getting a crew of 4 out here. So we're getting an extra pair of hands at every school. They were working on some Saturdays since we met with them to try and catch up. So we've been watching them. The detail work has gotten better. Some of the irrigation issues are getting fixed. So we'll continue to keep a close eye on them and get the service that we pay for.
Any questions, comments? Item G, Mountain House High School baseball field foul pole installation.
This is another item that this group's talked about on a number of occasions, and it's been I think a year in the making. We have the poles on site. We have the rebar tubes that they're going to sink into the ground for reinforcement on site. And Jimmy, do you have an update of a date yet that Roblin's going to install?
We have to get the site USAID for utilities. That'll happen next week, and then we can schedule construction. So looking probably 2 weeks out, maybe 3 weeks there's only 9 poles, so we have to bore 9 holes in the ground. It's not a huge project, so it should go fairly quickly once that process starts.
I just want to remind everybody, at the recommendation of Jimmy and the Roblin folks, we went beyond the recommendation of the manufacturer for putting the posts in the ground. So we are reinforcing the posts in the ground with pretty heavy duty rebar. You can see them there in the parking lot by the pool right now, so that we can ensure that the poles will be there for a long time and not have problems in our high winds.
Yeah, the original design didn't have any rebar in the holes, which made me nervous. So I talked with Robin, and we used the same rebar cages that they use for the backstops at Cordis, and those holes for the baseball netting, just to make them more secure. Because of the winds we get out here, it made me nervous not having rebar in the hole. So that's why we went that route.
Questions, comments? Item 6, action items. Are there any action items?
No, sir.
Item 7, future agenda topics and meeting date. A, future meeting dates for 2021 is December 17th, 2020. For 2021 is February 4th, 2021 and May 13th, 2021. And unless there's additional, does anybody have any future agenda items that they would like to have discussed and added to the agenda? Okay, well.
If I may, I think I should probably update us on where we are with the county and the county Department of Public Health and the potential opening of facility use, where we are. Maybe we should bring that back at that point. And I'd like to bring you some updates on work that's gone on around the district, repair work, as well as some of the cool murals and the like that have gone through this committee.
Absolutely. You're on mute, Saint.
I have a suggestion. So every place we go now, they charge us a sanitation fee, an extra sanitation fee, like a $5 or $3, like when you go to the dentist or the eye doctor or whoever. So would we consider something like that in the coming future, like when we open up, just for the agencies, like extra sanitation fees?
who would you? I'm not understanding who you were. Who would be paying this?
Let's say we open it up to PTA for Hampton PTA. We're renting it, and or any organization is gonna come and rent the place. Do you want to consider adding on a small fee for extra sanitation fee or something extra? Like, do you want to? I don't know if that would help us, because we are gonna be putting in more effort, resources, more cleaning supplies, spraying, and doing all that. So maybe not a lot, not too much, but everywhere I've been now, I've taken the kids. They are charging $5 per head, like everywhere, like glasses, hair salon, everywhere. So this is becoming like the new norm until when we all go back to the normal. So
If I may, they're doing that to help cover their PPE. So when they're buying their hand sanitizer, their gloves, their masks, etc., they're trying to cover the expense. And when we do come back, we are going to have a great deal of more cleaning and sanitation to do. So it may be something that we may need to consider. The minimum of 2 hours may need to be a minimum of 3 or 4 hours, depending on the use for custodians. That may be something we have to consider.
I think it's a good point to consider, and it kind of goes along with what I was going to suggest, and that is if we open schools before our next facilities committee meeting, do we want to have a meeting to address use of our facilities? I mean, if the kids are in school, okay, are we still not taking any reservations if school is open? Are we sticking with for next semester, even if we open school? Because let's say we open school next month, the middle of October. I'm just making it up. There's no way. That would be too soon. But if we were to open the end of October, let's say, and we still have our facilities closed for use to outside groups, are we going to open them up or just leave them closed for the full semester?
Well, I would have an opinion on that if you don't mind. We're going to be stretched thin with custodial and cleaning. We're going to be cleaning constantly, trying to make sure that we are as sanitary as possible, following CDPH guidelines and exceeding, because we are going to exceed guidelines when it comes to students back on our campus. So staff time is going to be the biggest challenge, I think, to facility use.
I would agree. And I'm okay with sticking with what we have already established as no potential for opening up our facilities until after winter break. It was just a question, because that question is going to come up from the public.
I really liked Saint's suggestion, and I think it makes sense. To me, it makes sense actually to add a line item, to figure out a line item that is for that purpose that can be deleted. Like instead of re-racking all of our rates, and then after COVID-19, Dominus Reminus, all that, having to re-rack them again, right? I think that having a sanitization fee, that makes sense, because, some rooms are going to be per use and some are going to be, like I don't know how that's going to work, but I think that it behooves staff to figure out something that does make sense to help defray the cost, because every single thing that's done inside is going to cost us more than it did this time last year.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Saint's idea is a great one, and I like your idea of having it as a line item. So when we don't need it anymore, we just delete the line item rather than redoing the whole fee schedule. We do want to keep in mind it's not just for the PPE, it's also staff time, because it's going to take staff more time to do this level of sanitization than what we're used to. And we're going to be paying a lot of overtime.
Could I make a suggestion? We
We
have,
could add this in the next meeting, sorry.
oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, we could add this in the next meeting as a topic, and then we can, talk about it and come up with a price and how we want to charge the USC elements, and then the outside people who come in, like, organizations who belong to the school district, and the ones who are coming from outside, like the chess club, they come from outside, like, they make money. If they make money, then you pay a certain amount. When you're within the thing, then you make a certain amount. We can talk business at the next meeting. You want to add that there?
You had a suggestion, Mr. Harrison?
I will add it. I believe in our handbook, we have the prerogative to add addendums. So we can add an addendum to the facilities use rental agreement handbook. And instead of making it permanent at the end of the school year, we could choose to remove it if we don't have the same COVID issues. Or we could choose to roll it into the next school year, depending on the cases. So I can mock something up if you guys want for the next meeting, and we can talk about it. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was gonna suggest that we have a special that we, see if we can have a special meeting, if and when we come back to report in on, not on any of this stuff and not all the paperwork, just what's the status of the school. But I'm pretty sure that's gonna be reported into the board. The board as a whole is gonna wanna know about that when, if and when we bring students back. So I don't think we need a facilities committee meeting to talk about that, because regardless, it's going to be discussed at the general board level. Any other questions, concepts for future meetings? Then I will adjourn the meeting at 7:55 p.m. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.